you've come to learn Azamra with me. Just to give you an indication of how important this special lesson is, this lesson of Rebbe Nachman. I'm on my third book in about 4 years because it's so worn out. So that's, it's an important lesson, and it's a lesson that Rebbe Nachman encouraged his followers to go with, okay? And literally to go with it, to stay connected with it, to learn it over and over again. Oh, if you're going to yawn, I'm going to yawn too. It's okay. So the special thing about this lesson is that it's the kind of lesson that Breslovers and other people can learn and relearn their whole lives. You can learn it at so many levels. You can learn it at the most basic, simple level. You can learn it from the Kabbalistic level. You can learn it from an ethical level. You can learn it in a variety of ways. So, what I like to do to start is to learn at what we call the psycho-spiritual level. Because the soul, the neshama, and our psychology are really one thing. They're really one. Our souls are an accumulation of all the emotions and mentations and thoughts, and all of these are expressions of the soul. And how we interact with the world not only affects our soul, but it changes it and it changes us. Okay? So this lesson was delivered just 3 years before Rebbe Nachman passed away. He spoke it in the fall of 1807, and he passed away in 1810. And since then, this lesson has been shaking up the world. And what I'm going to do over the course of the next 3 weeks, the men are going to plow through this lesson and plow through the next lesson and another lesson, because that's the way they're going to learn it. But I wanted to go deeper with you and focus on pieces of this lesson. If you want to learn the lesson all the way through, we publish all these books, but also Sefaria Online has them free. We gave them our entire library, and they're online in Hebrew and English. If those aren't your languages, we have them in other languages as well. So they're free online if you want to learn the lesson. How many of you have learned Azamra before? Anybody? Zeisy? Not? Okay. All right.
So can you explain when you said it may not be Nachman of Breslov?
Yes, this is from Rebbe Nachman of Breslov.
But it's Likutey Moharan?
It's Likutey Moharan, correct. It's lesson 282 in Likutey Moharan. Okay? And there was another question?
Yeah, I was just asking if we go online.
Okay, so it's if you're looking in the Hebrew, it's Resh Pei base, and if you're looking in the English, it's 282. Okay? And it's in Likutey Moharan.
And how do you spell this Sefaria?
Sefaria.com. The only downside to that is
Musifria.
Yes, right. But it's in the yeah. So the only downside is that we have 2 publications of Azamra, both with different commentary, and you'd be missing the commentary, but that's fine. It's worth learning the lesson on its own. So, does everybody know what Likutey Moharan is? I'm making assumptions here, so no. Okay, so Likutey Moharan is a collected anthology of teachings of Rebbe Nachman of Breslov. And there are several hundred teachings in both the first and second volume. And this lesson is technically it's the final lesson in the first volume, the first major volume of these lessons, although there are some lessons that Rebbe Nuss and Rebbe Nachman's student added on. Okay, so it's a very profound and important lesson. So what I'm going to do is I'm only going to do a few sentences from it, and we're going to talk about it. So it begins with the word da. And when Rebbe Nachman says da, which means no, he's telling us to pay attention. And there is we have a tradition that one of his Hasidim said that when Rebbe Nachman told him, and he's saying the word da, he's telling us that this teaching is from Atzilus, which is a very high world, okay? We have to understand that this teaching, as simple as it seems, holds the highest mystical secrets in it, okay? So, when we hear da, it's pay attention. So he continues, da, ki tzarech ladun es kol adam l'chaf schus, okay? So, a person must be dan l'chaf schus other people, I'll explain that. And this is a teaching from Pirkei Avos, the ethics of the father. And what that means is in loose translation, we have to judge other people favorably. And this is why tonight's emphasis is going to be on relationships. But if we look at the Hebrew and we see what it's really saying we should judge on the portion or the side of schus, of merit. In other words, we should be looking for merit in other people. Okay? And I want to tell you that this seems obviously moral to us and ethical to us. And oh, of course, we should all look at the good in others. But in practice, this may be one of the hardest teachings in the Torah. Okay? Because in practice, we have an inner battle. And the battle is that when we see someone who pushes our buttons, instead of saying, wow, the person who challenges us is a gift from God, and that person is here to make me grow and change and have new insights into myself. Instead, we see, oh, that person, they're so annoying. They're so annoying, okay? Or they're so this, or they're so that. And we smile if we're nice people, which I'm sure we all are here, and we smile, oh, yes, and they're like, ah. Okay.
It's only American.
It's American? Yeah, because Israelis tell you straight to your face, right? So this is only American. Israelis are going to tell you right to your face.
Israeli cannot stand this.
Right. Yes, I know.
It's very cultural.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I didn't think of it, but you just added something new to Azamra for me. So thank you, Miriam. Thank you. So yeah, it's two-faced. You're right. But either way, neither way is correct. So what happens with this teaching is that where we go with this is we say, okay, we should judge somebody favorably, and you may even work on it, and then Hashem is going to plop a gift in your lap. And somebody's going to come along, maybe you haven't seen them a while, maybe you're related to them, maybe it's a neighbor, and you will say, I can judge everybody favorably, but except her. Or except him. Everybody else okay. Right? Okay. We all do this. And this is the truth. If we're really being honest, we all do this. We may not be conscious of it. We may not even articulate it to ourselves. But when someone rubs us the wrong way, that is actually the gift. That's something being sent to us. Because why? Everything comes to us from Hashem, including the people in our lives. And the people in our lives are shluchim. They're agents. You're laughing. With your Israeli sense of humor. They are. They're agents for us.
Even
And-
bad bosses.
Even what?
Bad bosses.
Especially.
I didn't hear.
Bad bosses.
Oh,
Bad
bad
bosses.
bosses, especially bad bosses, unfortunately. And family relationships, those are often the trickiest. These are, if we can climb this mountain, it's like Mount Everest. This is the Mount Everest of Torah, in my personal opinion, okay? So whatever we're dealing with is being sent to us by Hashem. However, so how are we supposed to cope with it? So we're going to continue. We need insight into why we should cope with this, and not only why, but how. Because this really, if we're really honest, how many people think that this is a very difficult task? Okay, not really. Okay, you too? Okay, good. All right. So we continue. V'afilu mi shehu rasha gamor. Even a person who is completely wicked, completely evil, okay? Tzarich lahapes v'limtzoi boi eze me'at tov. It is necessary to find in them, to seek in them a little drop of good. Even somebody who's completely wicked. So who's completely wicked? So we're going to limit the conversation here to Jews, because this is what Rebbe Nachman was dealing with in this lesson. However, there are ways to learn this lesson in other contexts, but we're going to focus on this context. So we say to look for the good in even somebody who's completely wicked, and Rebbe Nachman tells us, he says, can a Jew be completely wicked? You can come in. I don't know if you can get in the other side. Okay, tell him he can walk through if he needs to.
You can come from here. You can come from here.
I don't know what happened to Neely. Did you get through? Okay, thank you, Neely. So, even someone who's completely wicked. So Rebbe Nachman says like this. He says, and this is where some of the juicy stuff from Atzilus comes. He says, there are 600,000 root souls. Okay? And each of us connects with one of those souls. Okay? Because there are more than 600,000 Jews. Okay? If there were 600,000 neshamas that stood at Sima, at Mount Sinai. And those 600,000 souls correspond to the letters in the Torah. There's one letter for every Jew in the Torah. Okay? And Rebbe Nachman says like this. He says, when you view a Jew as completely wicked, and you can't find the good in them, you are blemishing a letter in the Torah. Because these concepts, it's not just a nice metaphor or anything like that. This is a real concept. These concepts are one and the same. A letter is a soul, and we know that from Kabbalah. Okay, and a soul is a letter. Okay. So that person that pushes our buttons that we can't find the good in, okay, or that they're challenging us, or that we have moments where we want to give up on them, okay, we're frustrated with them, that person is a letter in the Torah. And when we dig in deep inside, and we can peel back the stuff that we don't like looking at, and we can look for that drop of good that the Rebbe says, okay, that drop of tov, we are rescuing the Torah. We're rescuing it. Okay? We're not just rescuing that soul, we'll get into that. We're rescuing the letters in the Torah. Now, I want to sidestep a minute and just mention to you that what I'm speaking about all takes place in our thoughts. How you speak to someone and how you act with them and how you treat them is a separate issue for me. I'm just talking about what we think, because our thoughts are, in a way, our most sublime faculty, okay? They connect higher than any of our other attributes and faculties. So, if you kick a ball, it will go so far. If you throw a ball, it will go so far. This is all from Rebbe Nachman. If you shout, your voice is going to go even further. Or a cannon shot, you will be able to hear from very far away. Okay, your vision sees farther still. You can see the stars in the sky. But your thoughts connect with heaven. They're right there in heaven. Okay, there's nothing holding back your thoughts. They're pure energy. So what the Rebbe's telling us is that this all is taking place, for now, we can talk about where it moves later, in the realm of thought, okay? In the realm of how we think about people. How we treat them, we can get into at another point in time. Something very mystical and deep is happening when we think about people in a new way, okay? And the Rebbe's telling us that we can do this. We can train ourselves to think about people in a new way and it will change our relationships. That's a guarantee of Azamra, is that it will change your relationships for the better. For you. You will benefit from it. Okay? All right. I'm going to... are there any questions so far? No? Okay, good. I'm clear. Okay, so we said that it's necessary to search inside this so-called Rasha and find a drop of good. Sheba osov hamat eno Rasha. And in that place, you won't have the wicked person. He won't be a Rasha. Because our thoughts create reality. We all, maybe you've heard of The Secret and all that stuff, and the, what is it, the laws of attraction and all that, okay? That's sort of a little slice of this, sort of, okay? What we focus on creates reality. Now, we believe this about ourselves. Most people believe that. I know if I'm thinking positive about something, I'm gonna find the positive, I'm gonna feel better. But what the Rebbe's telling us is that when you think positive about someone else, that's going to change not only your reality, but wait for it, their reality too, because he says, in that place, there is no one wicked. There's no one evil in that place. Okay, how's that possible? So we'll continue. Va'al yidei zeh shemotzei bo ma'at tov. So in that place there is no Rasha, and by finding that little bit that he is not wicked, we're finding in him, we're drawing out from him and finding in him that little bit of good, okay? V'dan oso l'chaf schus, al yidei zeh maila oso be'emes l'chaf schus, and by finding in him that little drop of good and judging him, being dan l'chaf schus, we are literally, okay, literally changing him. We're changing something, I'm going to tell you. Vayuchal lahashivo b'teshuva. We are literally helping that person. We're enabling them to do tshuva. We're enabling them to come closer to God by how we're looking at them, how we're just thinking about them. How is this possible? So this comes from the Baal Shem Tov. He reveals something amazing to us. He says that whenever we look at another person, okay, and we notice something that we could potentially see as a negative, he says this is, he doesn't use the word projection, we use that word today, this is projection. You're seeing in the other person something about yourself. And Israelis may not agree with me. But Americans will agree with me. You're actually getting the opportunity to make a judgment. Okay? And the Baal Shem Tov uses the language of the courts, and he says, when you notice another Jew doing something wrong, you are being judged in Hashemayim, in the heavenly court. And this is the language he uses. And you're being given an opportunity. It's a mirror for you to give yourself a guilty verdict, God forbid, or an innocent verdict. And if you see the other person doing something that in any way mirrors you, even if you don't know what it is, but something negative, and you say, you know, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they don't realize what they're doing. Maybe their intentions were good. I'm going to look away. I know they're a good person. I know that they give charity. I know they're nice to their mothers, whatever. Okay? And we look away. Whatever we were whatever judgment we were facing in heaven is lifted from us. And that's why this benefits us. When I first heard this, I almost fell flat on my face when I heard this teaching. That alone changed my life. Whatever we see in someone else is an opportunity for us to decide our own fate. Okay? This is from the BOMA Shul. Rebbe Nachman's great-grandfather. And Rebbe Nachman, of course, developed a lot of his teachings from they're original, but little niblets from the BOMA Shul.
So we decide our own fate by giving them the benefit of the doubt?
Yes.
Not by taking whatever they're doing and say, okay, I'm doing that too, maybe I should change?
Okay, so that's also good.
But if it's something bad, what are you going to take on it?
Okay, so if you see somebody doing something, okay, and you're not sure that it has anything to do with you, we can rest assured that all of Chazal, all our sages, said that when you see something in someone else, it's about you. They knew projection before anybody heard of Freud or Jung. Yeah, it's right there for us. Okay? And what it is that we may not know exactly what it represents to us, but the promise is that it's something about us. And if we don't microscope them, we don't get microscoped. Meaning looked at like this and held measure for measure. If you let things slide with other people, and this is very hard for some people. It used to be very hard for me. I was brought up to not let anything slide. Everything was like this. Okay, it's hard for some Israelis. I'm just teasing, you know that. If you let things slide for others, Hashem will let slide for you. And more than that, using the language of the courts, there is no double indemnity. This means that if you judge fairly, if you look away from somebody and give them the innocent verdict, they're innocent, I can make excuses for them even. They don't even know what they're doing. It's okay. I'm going to judge them kindly. Okay? What happens is that that's done. You have done a type of tshuva, a type of correction and return on whatever it is about you that maybe is a similar negative. Does everybody understand how powerful this is?
Yeah, it's huge.
It's huge. It's huge. It will change your life if you just think about this a couple minutes a day.
I'm just thinking, isn't it in Talmud, הפוסל במומו, במומו פוסל? The one who sees negative in another person actually sees negative in himself.
That's
That's in the
also.
Talmud.
Yes, it is. I think it is, but I don't know where.
I don't know where, but it's in Talmud.
I don't learn inside Talmud. It's too hard for me. It's way above my head. I don't know Aramaic.
So that's probably the beginning of that. הפוסל במומו, במומו.
Yeah, and the truth is, there's many ways to look at this. So what Anat is saying is that whatever I'm seeing in someone else is really reflected back to me.
Whatever I judge
Right.
negatively,
Right.
I see a pimple, I see my pimple.
That's right.
No, it's another way. It's like you can see something negative in someone, but another person will see positive. So it's like it's something about you
Exactly.
that you see the negativity. So that's what he's saying. Try to see everything positive, as it will change you.
It's
It will change about.
You have to have this piece. So I want to tell you that really
that's beautiful.
the point of Azamra, everybody says, what's Azamra about? Do you need some water? Okay. Everybody says, what's the point of Azamra? So the main point that people will tell you is all about believing in yourself, finding the good in yourself, self-esteem. It's true. It all is. You can come through and go through if you want. Okay. So this really is, we're going to lead into that. Next week we're going to talk about that. Okay? But I want you to know that the Rebbe Nachman started the lesson with this. But the main points of the lesson are in the Kitzur, Likutey Moharan, the abridged edition, which is unlike any abridged edition of anything you've ever read, except maybe Shulchan Aruch. It takes the essentials only. It's very powerful, and that begins with you. But the truth is if you want to change yourself, for most people, it's easier going outside in. Because looking at ourselves to look at ourselves can be very tricky, okay? It can be difficult. It's hard to be honest sometimes. It can be painful. You studied analysis, you know, okay? So this gives us, we're practicing, let's practice on other people. Let's start our self-esteem from the outside in. Let's work with them. Now, how hard is this? So Rebbe Nachman is Rebbe Nachman's, he was his leading student and a tremendous scholar, and he really was a tzaddik in his own right. And he was very frustrated. He was a real Talmud Chacham, and he was very frustrated with the kind of Judaism, as it were, and he was searching for something. And he was drawn to the Hasidim, and eventually he met Rebbe Nachman. And he became so important to Breslov that Rebbe Nachman would say, without my Nasala, nobody would know my teachings. He called him his Nasala, okay? It was such a beautiful relationship, and he did something very special that I want to tell you about. I'm going to briefly tell you now, and we'll talk about it more in the last week. And that is, as Rebbe Nachman told Rebbe Nachman, he said, turn my lessons into prayers. And he's told his followers, I want you to pray about what I'm teaching you. I want you to talk to God about what I'm teaching you, because this is how you're going to make it part of yourself. This isn't a head exercise. I want it in every fiber of your being, because he's teaching us how to be a Jew, really. Okay, this is the essence of Ahavas Yisrael, this first part, right? To love each other. So what was happening was Rebbe Nachman would think about and meditate on these lessons, and he was a brilliant scholar as well. And he wrote thousands and thousands of pages collected and called Likutey Halachos, which explain the Kabbalah of this and so on and so forth. It's very fascinating, and the halachas. And he also wrote Likutey Tefillos. And in English, we have a version that's Hebrew on one side, English on the other, called the 50th Gate. And most of those lessons, okay, most of those prayers correspond to a lesson. And prayer number 90 is the prayer that corresponds to this lesson. So if something I'm saying is grabbing you and you want to talk about it with Hashem, talk about it with God, and you're not sure where to start, you could always open, and I think it's volume 4 that we have. It's a paperback. And it might be in Sefaria, so you can look it up online. And you can open it and you can start reading it, and there's a conversation in there about everything we're discussing tonight. And it's an intimate conversation. It's kind of like, I would say it's like Psalms for this generation. Okay, very accessible and approachable. Okay, so Rebbe Nachman, I think this was after Rebbe Nachman passed away. There was a Reb Meir of Teplik, which was a nearby town in Ukraine, and he came to Rebbe Nachman. And Rebbe Nachman said to him, oh, so how's so-and-so from your town? How's he doing? And Rebbe Meir rolled his eyes. Oh, you know how he is. And Rebbe Nachman said, wait a second. He said, I want to tell you something. Take a look at the person at the end of your street. Are they a good Jew? Are they a good person? And Rebbe Meir said, yeah, not really. And he said, okay, what about the next house down? How are they? He said, well, they have their faults. They're not so good with this, and they're not so good with that. And he said, think about every single family in that town, every single person in that town that you know. He said, now I want you to think about yourself. How are you? He said, well, I'm not so great either. He said, see, if you don't look at the good in everyone, even the guy you can roll your eyes about, you will not be able to find the good in yourself. And if you can't find the good in yourself, you can't accomplish anything in this lifetime. Which is why it's so important for us to start on the outside. because we will work our ways into ourselves. This will become, this, you can view it as a narcissistic self-referential exercise, but I promise you it's not. But it will become self-referential in a healthy way, okay? It will, you can come through this way or that way, it's up to you. There, it's fine.
This is right.
Don't worry, we're just laughing at you. Is it really, you know?
That was brilliant.
Gary said he's Israeli.
Only Israeli would do that. All the
All the other people were.
I'm sorry.
So,
קיצור דרך.
so,
We know what chutzpah is.
קיצור דרך.
so this whole teaching is predicated on really, we could just be, you know, hippies about it, positivity and love and joy, and it really is. It's really, you can think about it, go into it intellectually, but you can put that aside, okay, unless you're Israeli. You can put that aside, and you can actually just say, wow, this takes a big weight off my shoulders. And it does. It does. Because if you're not in judgment mode, you're in acceptance mode, right? There's judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? If you're not judging, what are you doing?
Have to accept.
Yeah, you have to.
Unemployed.
All right. But the option is, okay, the option is to stress yourself out, to be very particular, to hold people to account, to not avert your eyes. Listen, let me tell you something. Yes, go
I
ahead.
think maybe it's a semantic thing, because if I don't criticize somebody, then I look at what is. But it doesn't mean that I have to accept it. It just is. Verbally, something accept means like I'm condoning it, but I'm not neither. It just is. This person knows how to throw garbage very nicely.
So, okay, so I'm gonna answer that because I think I know what you're getting at. So the truth is that this goes beyond that, because it's not saying, there is nowhere that you should say when you see somebody, you know, committing arson, you don't say, oh, isn't that nice? No, that's not what the Rebbe's saying. What he's saying is, well, first you should put out the fire, and then you should say, oh, but you know what, that person, look, they had a very hard upbringing. Maybe they're really suffering. They didn't realize how out of control the fire was going to get. You know, I do happen to know that they want to connect with God and they want to live a good life, and that they have good intention. Like, I'm not saying that you see the bad and you go, oh, I accept it. That's an Eastern religion, okay? We don't have to accept the bad. We don't have to condone the bad. What we have to do is literally, he says seek and search. We have to seek and search and find the good, okay? And he also says, and this is the next part of the stuff that happens in that energy field above us, that we can bring a person to do tshuva, that's the final part here, with our thoughts, okay? So how can our thoughts bring a person to, what is tshuva? Okay, so in essence it means coming closer to God and wanting to connect with Him and wanting to serve Him and wanting to live and fulfill your ultimate purpose as a soul, okay? So how do our thoughts make somebody do that? So we all know, if you have kids or you've been around kids, or just even adults too, that if you notice what somebody's doing that's good, you know, and you say, wow, I really like the way you're painting that picture, it's so interesting, I see you're putting this here and this there, it's, you know, what you're going to do is by giving them enough positive feedback, they'll hopefully continue painting that picture. You give them too much, it becomes meaningless, but that's a political topic, okay? So we're just going to give positive feedback. This isn't that, that's something else. This is saying, in the realm of your thoughts, by thinking positively about someone, something is going to change. So we're going to take another trip back up to the courtroom in the sky. Okay. Because what's going to change is that that person also is being judged. Because we are all being judged. And Hashem wants to judge us all with mercy. And when another person is also being judged, and you think in your thoughts, you know, it's not so bad, they didn't mean it, they're a good person. What happens is that the malachim, the angels, have nothing to accuse them of. The charges are also dropped against that other person. So you are accomplishing for yourself, and you're accomplishing something for them. And when a person doesn't feel judged, and when a person doesn't feel that there's negative energy coming at them, they, inside, they feel a change, and they themselves are able to move in a positive direction, naturally. When a person feels pushed down, they fight back. But when a person feels that there's that they're viewed as good, it's a feeling that will come over you. You have a feeling that you're blessed, with a feeling of love. You want to follow up with that. Does everybody understand that this is in the realm of our thoughts alone? Is there any questions?
Yeah, I have one question. You said we were talking about Jews.
Yes, in this instance we are.
Okay. So what if you see a Jew doing something to a non-Jew, and you're thinking that maybe it's because that person doesn't see that person as an equal to himself? What happens there?
So what happens there, so you're really asking a question about action. And it's a very good question. It's another lesson, okay? How do you handle it? So there are many ways to handle it. You could pull them aside, you could speak to them, you could give them a lecture. At the same time, you're still required to see something good in that Jew. You're still required to do that. And you're also, what Anat said before, maybe it's a time for self-reflection. Where do I, if you notice something so specific, and that's something we all have. I'm sorry, we all don't view everybody as equal to us. Or we don't. This is it's part of our. It's even part of the American culture. Not every culture has this. So if we say to ourselves, I'm looking down on these people. I'm looking down at that person. I have to work on it, and you'd be very surprised, because another to this lesson is looking at something like that and noticing it about yourself and doing some analysis on it, thinking about it. And what usually is surprising is that very often what I find is that it's very shocking to people, but they view somebody as some group or some person as beyond redemption, and they're willing to castigate them because they feel that group is judgmental, and they're judging them, okay? So the expression, which I'm not crazy about, the haters, okay? So somebody will say, okay, well, they're haters. Once you call somebody a hater, you remove the human element from them. In Hebrew, there's the word rodef, it's a pursuer. They say that if somebody's going to murder an innocent person, the halacha is they lose their status as a human being. They're still a human being, but their status changes somewhat, and they become a rodef, a pursuer. And once they become a pursuer, you are allowed to shut them down, even if it means, God forbid, hurting them, because they're pursuing an innocent person. Okay? When somebody's just insulting someone or something like that, okay, that's not a rodef necessarily, but it's a chance for you to say, where am I in this equation? Hold a mirror up. Usually what I find is that when I'm noticing something negative about somebody, it's become habitual because of this, that I'm really able later to, I make his voted on it, he voted to. Does everybody know what that is? Okay. Okay. Did somebody ask?
What is the word that you
Hit bodedut. Okay. So I talked to Hashem later about it, and usually very quickly, because it's become second. I wouldn't say second nature. I still struggle, but whatever. It's become more part of me. I usually say, oh, that's why I was shown this. That's why Hashem showed this to me, because what I'm seeing in them is so about me. Okay. So.
No, sorry, it's
okay. I'm tired too. So this is what happens to us.
What is so funny?
Yeah. What?
No, you were laughing.
Yeah.
What was so funny?
Because I was yawning. That's why.
I didn't see it.
Tiffany?
So I can understand like a character logical, like someone's lazy, or you think like they are lazy.
Okay.
You're at work, oh, that person's late, and then you say, oh, but they're also always nice and say hello, but so how about someone that murdered like something really serious, or like falsely accused you, took you to court, something like that.
This is, if this happens, you can be sure that your neshama is ready to deal with it. It's a very big test. And this does happen to people. You wouldn't be the first, okay? It's happened to me. It's not exactly the same thing. And the idea isn't to forgive the act. The idea isn't to condone it. Maybe it's not even to accept the act. That's separate. The idea is to look at the person and be dan l'chav tzchus. When you make that judgment call in your head, judge them on the side of merit. This is very, very difficult. I just taught, I'm going to tell you something funny maybe, for me it was funny, a 6-part course on anger management, Breslov style. And I teach it, if you do it through our organization, live online, we have a lot of these courses. And I've been teaching live online Monday nights for several years. I'm in an apartment building. And I always put a sign on my door, and it's a very big building with a lot of kids, and it's very noisy. And I put a sign on my door every Monday night, please, from this time to this time, please, don't kids playing in the hallway. You shouldn't even be up, but okay. And it's been very quiet on Monday nights while I'm teaching. It's been unbelievable until I started the anger course. As soon as I started the anger course, all the mommies let their kids play in the hallway, 8:30 at night, 9 at night. What is going on? What's going on? And the class before the last, that's how long it took me to figure it out. Embarrassingly enough. I said, oh, boing, light bulb went off. I'm being shown anger. I'm being shown like my anger. I'm speaking about all the ways into managing anger, judging favorably. And I'm getting annoyed, really annoyed. Okay? So whatever you're going to be working on, you're going to be shown. And if you're not working on it and you're shown it, you should be working on it, because that's how it works. Your relationship with Hashem is really personal. He knows you better than anyone else, and he knows what you need. And if you need to work on a situation where for some reason you're going to be given screaming 5-year-olds at 9 at night in the hallway, that's what you're going to be given. That's what you're going to be given. And if you're going to be working on a situation where somebody does something abominable, unforgivable, okay, read the prayers in this. You have a sitter? Mm-hmm. Okay. Ashkenaz or Sephardi? Both. Okay. So I know the Sephardi one. Read the sitter. And before the first prayer is all about how we daven before we go to bed at night. We don't want to go to bed at night hating anyone. And we ask Hashem, please, please Hashem, let nobody be judged or punished on my account, right? Tzipporah is nodding, right? We don't want anybody to be punished on my account. Why? Why? Because we're such angels?
Well, because...
Yeah, because then it comes back to us. I mean, I would like to be that altruistic, but the truth is that little... that little touch of yira, that little touch of fear happens to me to be very, very motivating. Okay? I don't want someone. And then when you start getting in the pattern of forgiveness and the pattern of, okay, I don't know what you're going through and I'm sorry. And I hope you have a Purim miracle. Okay? You should have a big Purim miracle. This is the right time to be going through something. The tables should be turned.
Well, this is old news.
Old news.
Yeah.
So this is the right time to work. You can have an internal Purim miracle. Flip it inside out and work on it. Okay?
I'm struggling with this first assumption when you said, I know everybody will hate me for saying that, but that it will only applies to Jews. But I don't know.
I didn't say that.
No, she said
No,
she
we're
didn't
just
say
talking
that.
about you.
She
I said right now for
we
tonight.
concentrate about
for
relationship
tonight.
with Jews.
Yes.
Oh,
Right.
But she didn't say general.
Right. It-
okay. I thought that it would apply only to Jews.
So that's another subject that requires an in-depth conversation. But I can tell you that whatever the details are, the more you practice being Dalmakavskos, the more you practice being non-judgmental of everybody, the better off you are.
Of course.
Okay? Okay. But that's a whole other conversation. Okay. Questions, comments, more?
So, sorry, what was, so like, before you go to bed, you're not supposed to, you ask, like, to be relieved of this anger, and then that no one be,
Right. No one be
Punished
punished on my account.
And
And we also say in the
we forgive every
right, we forgive everyone.
Time, Shema.
Right.
But
Oh,
people
it's
can.
Yeah, hamakil. We forgive everyone. Okay.
But what is the point that if you arrive to this kind of level that you mentioned, they will not be kind of taking advantage? Like if you shine these kind of things, so.
Because I'm not saying that you should, which was Doris asked, she said, what if you see someone doing something wrong? I'm not saying you shouldn't stop someone.